Hello and welcome to LaRosa Reads. I'm Denise LaRosa and today we're going to go from books to screen. Let's talk books. Yay! So I have done one other video like this where I talked about two books that I read while also watching their film adaptations, and I am excited to bring to you two more book to screen experiences. The first one that I want to share with you is that I read Fences, the play by August Wilson, and then I watched the film, finally watched the film, and it was an incredible experience. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Fences and its synopsis, I'm going to share that with you briefly. We have an older Black man living in, I will just say Pittsburgh, but living in a city in the 1950s, going into the early 1960s. He has two sons and a wife, and he is at an interesting inflection point in his life. He works on a trash truck, and he's been doing this daily grind for quite some time. He had migrated from the South and has had some traumatic lived experiences that he has yet to truly face and deal with. And they are reflected in the way he projects those fears and anxieties and insecurities on his family members. His younger son is aspiring to become a football player and really trying to live in his father's footsteps, follow his father's footsteps, because his father, Troy, was an incredible baseball player in the Negro Leagues and just never was able to fully realize his dreams because of the limitations that were placed upon Black athletes at the time. It is full of emotion. It's gripping. It is so beautifully written, as are all of August Wilson's plays. And this is a part of the century cycle where August Wilson so brilliantly takes the Black lived experience and gives us a story for each decade of the 20th century for the Black experience. And then we have the incomparable, incredible, just uber talented and uber handsome Denzel Washington, who has done an amazing job. It's really heartwarming to see that he is so drawn to August Wilson's works and has made a commitment to turn those plays into film. And he portrays Troy in Fences in a way that just brings that character to life and does him justice. I couldn't see anyone else portraying Troy. I couldn't see anyone else portraying Troy's wife other than Viola Davis. Some of you may recall that she earned an Oscar for this performance, and oh my goodness, was it a performance. So the interesting thing about taking plays and turning them into films is that plays are taking place in limited settings, right? There's not very many settings that are going to be exhibited in the film. And a lot of this film is taking place in Troy's backyard, on his way home from work, coming home from work with his friend, enjoying, a nice little drink in the backyard with his friend when they get off work on Friday and they've gotten paid. There's just a lot of dialogue and very little action. And I think if you can get with that, like if you go into these plays that have been adapted into films, if you can go into these film adaptations knowing that, you'll be good. If you're looking for like Training Day 2.0 from Denzel Washington, this ain't it, okay? This is not going to be happening for you. Denzel has to be an impeccable actor. He has to be incredible at his craft, in my opinion, to do such a dialogue-heavy role, as is Viola Davis as well. It's so heavy in dialogue and emotions. You don't have a lot of distractions by a lot of action happening around them. So you really have to be invested into these characters' lives and what's happening in their world. It was so moving. It was long, but it was so moving. And Denzel does an incredible job in his directing as well. To turn a play into a film is no easy feat, and I feel like he does it in a way that August Wilson would be proud. And of course, I'm speaking for someone whom I never met, but I can only imagine this because he stays true to the play. He doesn't derail or drift off into another space. This is not, I feel like this project for Denzel Washington isn't about him putting his own spin on things. This is him paying homage to this playwright, and he wants to do it right and honor him by not trying to add anything new, but just honoring the work that he has already put, he being August Wilson, has already put out into the world. Absolutely amazing. I highly recommend both the play and the film. And my goodness, as a Black person and a Black former performing artist and an admirer and lover of the written word, this book, this play, and the film delivers on so many levels. I highly recommend both the play and the film. The second book to screen thing that I'm going to talk about, like, what do you say? Like, book to screen experience that I'm going to discuss is Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Now, I'm stepping out here on a limb because I have not finished watching the series. So this is an FX series that you can watch on Hulu. My husband and I have very different taste in TV and movie watching, and when we can find something that we both will enjoy, it's a reason to celebrate and a reason to come together and watch the thing. And so after reading Kindred, I thought to myself, this is probably going to be a series that my husband and I can watch. With the science fiction elements, I feel like it would be a good time for my husband as well. And so we're in the midst of it now. I wouldn't even say in the midst. We've literally watched one episode, but there is enough happening in that one episode compared to the book that was worth me having a discussion with you about. So with Kindred, the book, we have Dana, a Black woman in the 1970s. She's an author. She is married to a white man who is also an author, and they are moving into a new home. So they've been living very meagerly in an apartment, and they're able now to purchase this home. And they are putting away the books from their own personal library. They're putting them away in this room that's going to be their home library. And Dana starts having these weird episodes, these very strange physical out-of-body experiences where she gets dizzy and she, I guess you could say, faints and passes out and wakes up in another time period, aka the time of enslavement. So as a Black woman living in the 70s, married to a white man, ending up living in the times of enslavement is, needless to say, a major culture shock and a trauma for Dana. And so she's traveling back and forth between these two time periods for a reason. She is connected to a white boy from the time of enslavement, and that white boy is connected to Dana's ancestors. So there's a lot happening here. There's somewhat of an generational, like a generational experience. There's also dealing with American history and the history of enslavement in America and facing some of those complex, traumatic truths that are a part of that experience. There's also this interracial relationship marriage that is put to the test whenever her husband ends up getting stuck back in the times of enslavement himself. He travels back in time with Dana for one of those journeys. So there's about a handful of those journeys that are happening. Now, the screen adaptation, the TV series, makes some interesting choices, and I feel like I'm going to have to do another video later to share with you how this all pans out, because I have some thoughts on it, and I'm not sure I'm excited about it, but maybe it will be worth it as I go through the series. So, like I told you, Dana is married to this white man in the book. In the screen adaptation, the series, Dana just randomly meets this guy, and they're not even dating. They're kind of like, I don't know, acquaintances with benefits whenever she starts to time travel. I don't know why you would make that choice, and it kind of bothers me because I feel like so much of what happens in the time traveling experiences for both characters is enriched because they have this history together. They're married, they've been together for a while. How that's going to show up for two almost strangers, I don't know. The other choice that the screen adaptation, the series takes, is this whole vibe of happening in the 2020s. And I was really disappointed by that. First of all, I feel like I was born in the wrong decade. I was born in the 80s, and I am obsessed with the 1970s. I'm so jealous that my brother grew up in the 1970s. I just love everything about it. The vibes, the fashion, what's happening politically, and just in so many ways. It's just like really, really an amazing, it's such an intriguing time and an important time. And I feel like having this story take place in the 1970s is really important to making that time traveling experience more enriching yet again. So having it happen between the 2020s and the 1800s, I believe it's the 1800s, I'm just not as sold on it. I feel like it's too broad of a gap of time. What was happening in the 1970s, we were progressing enough, but there was still it was just a really interesting point in society coming out of the civil rights movement that was still fresh enough that for these characters to time travel would be really intriguing and interesting. To go from the 2020s to this time was just, I just, we'll see. I'm trying not to give up on it. We'll see. The cinematography, the way they demonstrate the emotions in the episodes that Dana has that takes her to back in time is really stellar. I feel like it's really good. It kept our interest. I think it's done really well. Those two changes, I'm just not convinced that they were the right choices. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right, that is all I have for you today. You can check out my other video where I talk about 2 book to screen changes, experiences, adaptations. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.